Welcome back. BS Live Rocks YourTV Niagara. Bobby R. Rock over here.
Shane Neal.
And Andy C. over here. Revive the Rose. So talk about Bar Down, and we did talk about this before because I wasn't sure if you wrote the song and you took it to the Ice Dogs or you wrote it for them.
Yeah, so we were kind of like playing around with a riff, and we're like, oh, this is a good like pump up like riff, you know. And then like it kind of sparked the idea. I'm like, oh, like you know, like maybe I can get the Ice Dogs on board. And I remember I seen the Ice Dogs in the Penn Center on Boxing Day or some. Or sorry, some thing.
It's okay.
And sorry, that's the Welland out of me. Yeah, and I just went up to him like, who's your boss? And they're like, oh, this is Nino. His name's Nino. So they gave me like this business card. And I called this guy up. I emailed him. I'm like, hey, man, like, let's meet up. Like, at the time, Hits FM was rotating 9 to 5.
Because you were on the radio quite a bit.
Yeah. It was just the time when Hits FM started spinning us. It was a year after Rock Search. They were spinning 9 to 5. And so I used that as a leverage for these guys. I'm like, hey, like, we're on the radio right now, like, one station. And we're like, we'll write you a song. And he's like, okay, like, let's meet up. Let's talk about it. So didn't have the song at all. But I just kind of like, essentially I just kind of like started pitching my band and why we're awesome and why we should do this. And he's like, yeah, you know, we've been looking for something different to do, you know. Like,
Timing.
it's always the same old. We'd love to have a theme song. So literally, I don't think they didn't even hear the song until 2 weeks before the new season started with the video.
So you had the video done, you had everything done, and you sent it to them.
Yeah, like, yeah, and then okay, this is the song I was talking about. And they knew we were filming the music video in the change room because my cousin Mike Crosney, who works for Foregrounds, they would film the Ice Dogs games. So yeah, and then that's how that happened. And then the whole Ice Dog season's kicked off, and all of a sudden we were buzzing, this rock and roll band from Welland doing all the hockey stuff.
So as far as like that strategy, we'll call it a strategy because
it was definitely a target market strategy,
right?
For sure.
And it's kind of the less road traveled that you might have thought, you know, what other bands are going to pitch a song to, you know, a hockey team, right? Was that the idea?
Yeah, well, more so it's like this is a untapped territory, like, you know, and I really want Revive the Rose to always stand out, and my goal when I do game plan is what can we do differently and how can we do it better, bigger and better, and like how can we break the template of the rock scene right now? And that's what I want to do always. So that's kind of like how that really started, was that, you know. Otherwise, we're just a rock band, you know, like just doing the same old stuff. But if you keep putting fun things in there, like then they're like, oh, you're the band that did that. Like, oh, you're the band that did that. It's like, yep.
So. Yeah, so talk about how that led to the Leafs.
Yeah, so then a couple months later, I had found the contact for the DJ Cale Granton. He's the official Toronto Maple Leafs DJ. And yeah, I reached out to him with his email, and I said, hey, man, this is our hockey song we made for the OHL Ice Dogs. They're playing at every home game right now. We'd love for you to check it out. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm going to play this at a game. He's like, look out for the first, the
first
break
break
change. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, cool. And so I went over to Matt's house with a case of OV. We're like, no, they're not going to play.
you know he's from Welland, and he's going over to somebody's house with a case of OV, right?
Straight up, man. That's the only way. And yeah, the song was played, and all my friends were freaking out and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
So you were watching it on TV, and you heard
the Bar
song.
Down.
Yeah.
Yep. And I thought that was it. But then my friends kept texting me saying, hey, man, they played it again. I'm like, oh, what, really? And I would confirm with Cale. I'm like, did you play it again, dude? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I love this song. And then like months later, I'm noticing all these like, Spotify, there's an artist end for it, so we can see our results.
Sure. Yeah.
And I noticed like this like spike in Bar Down. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm like, what's going on? And you could see where they spawn from, the playlists. And I saw official Toronto Maple Leafs warm-up 2019 to 2020 season. And there was like 11 songs on there, and we were on there, along with like Deadmau5 and Metallica and a bunch of stuff. And then I messaged him, like, dude, you never told me you were going to do that. And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I really like this tune. So I got the paper to write an article on that. And then I sent that to EA Sports.
Oh, so that was, we were going to go there next. So it is on. So you have questions about this, I'm sure.
Oh, no, like I've been playing this game probably since the beginning with the little players and the...
Oh, the Sega Genesis days.
Oh, yeah, man. So, like, when I heard that you had the song and it's now included in NHL 21, like, that's crazy because a lot of times when bands form or you know, they you know, wouldn't it be cool if, you know, how does that happen? You're making it happen.
Yeah, I actually tried to pitch it for NHL 20. and they said we were too tied up with the sound. Like it's all been finalized. They said we'll keep it in mind, and that was before the Leafs started using it full time. But it's when I got the Tribune to write an article about that. I emailed it to the producer. I'm like, hey man, like now we're like literally a big part of like the Toronto Maple Leafs, and their
We're
job,
huge now.
yeah,
So.
well, you know, it's what their main goal is to try to make it as accurate as possible to the last season. So like, well, if this is being used, especially when during quarantine, when all the hockey games started happening at the Scotia Arena, like every team was playing there, but they're using Cale Granton and so we're being played at, they call it the Arizona games, and like we're being played at every game because it's the home arena.
Right.
So I was like, geez, man, like we really lucked out here. So that's how all that kind of happened.
Perfect. Yeah.
So because I haven't heard it in NHL 21 because I'm a grown adult and I don't play these games like you. But anyway, so what is it part of? Like is it part of like the what?
So it's not actually part of the menu soundtrack.
Okay.
It's actually used exactly for what it was on TV, which was a goal song or a warm-up song.
Got it.
And there's a mode you can unlock in the game where you can like set your goal music and stuff like that. So every time your team scores, that's the song that plays.
That's the song that plays, sure.
Or if you can, like the create mode, apparently. I forget what it's called. They were very vague on explaining it to me. All my friends that nerd out on this game, they're like, oh, buddy, this is what's going down in the game. I'm like, oh, sweet. Like I didn't know what we were being used for. But they sent me like a screenshot of like the where you could pick songs and it's there, man. I'm like, holy crap, that's crazy.
So you go from this, and we're going to talk about beer now and your lager. So how does this happen? Bar Down Lager. And this is a partnership with Taps and Eric Martin.
Yes, shout out to Eric Martin and the Taps crew. They're amazing over there, and they do some big things. What happened was, though, now we've always, like, you know, being a rock band, we've always thought of like, that'd be cool if we had a beer. Like, you know, bands have done it before, but I don't think they push it to the extent that we've been doing with this beer. Yeah, I've heard about the Iron Maiden beer.
It's awesome.
But in this case, we were like, boys, like, how do we capitalize on a soundtrack during a pandemic? I'm like, everyone's drinking right now. Like, I'm like, this is the only time that makes sense to make the beer.
And Welland comes out again.
Yeah, exactly. But the funny part is we've talked about like Bar Down Lager before. We're like, well, that would be the best, like a hockey beer. That'd be kind of cool to have. If not, Moxie was gonna be like we're gonna make a Moxie blonde and have like a hot blonde chick as the cover or something like that. But this only made too much sense. I'm like, hey, we got the game. Yep. You know, we rebirthed this 2018 single, which it almost didn't make it in the video game because it was 2018, but because the Leafs made it relevant in 2019 and 2020, the EA accepted it. They almost turned it down though completely because of that. Yeah, but that's what led to the beer. Like, hey, this is the beer. And I went up to Eric. I'm like, Eric's been supporting Revive the Rose since like what, 2015? So I said, let's do it, man. And he was like, right on.